Ben Franklin video number 2 out of 5. This video is about my favorite section of the autobiography. A few sentences that made me want to try my best to stop being argumentative and stop being so proud. Today, in 2023, it seems most of us are taught, be positive, and don't hesitate, and be firm, and have conviction in your opinions, and be proud. However, only 250 years ago, Ben Franklin, one of the most intelligent and successful men that ever lived, was writing in his autobiography, originally intended for his son to read, about how he tried all his life to live with humility, which seems to be the opposite of proud and assertive, which I found very interesting. Ben identified and named 13 virtues, or 13 habits, which he tried all his life to acquire, because he believed that if he could live with these habits, he would be a morally perfect being and would make no faults. Those are his words. I wished to live without committing any fault at any time. So, from the 13 virtues, which I talked about in the last video, which included things like don't eat and drink too much, keep your belongings tidy, do what you say you'll do, wash yourself regularly, don't overdo it with sex, etc. The one he said he found to be most difficult is the virtue or habit of humility, which is basically the art of being polite, humble, and in his words, making no direct contradiction to the sentiments of others and no positive statements of my own. Wow. Is it just me, or does that seem like the opposite of what most people teach today, especially in the business world? So here are the selections from his autobiography where Ben Franklin discusses this idea. My list of virtues contained at first but 12. But a Quaker friend, having kindly informed me that I was generally thought proud, that my pride showed itself frequently in conversation, that I was not content with being in the right when discussing any point, but was overbearing and rather insolent, of which he convinced me by mentioning several instances. I determined, endeavoring to cure myself, if I could, of this vice or folly among the rest, and I added humility to my list, giving an extensive meaning to the word. I cannot boast of much success in acquiring the reality of this virtue, but I had a good deal with regard to the appearance of it. I made it a rule to forbear all direct contradiction to the sentiments of others, and all positive assertion of my own. I even forbid myself the use of every word or expression in the language that imported a fixed opinion, such as certainly, undoubtedly, etc. And I adopted instead of them, I conceive, I apprehend, or I imagine a thing to be so and so, or it so appears to me at present. When another asserted something that I thought an error, I denied myself the pleasure of contradicting him abruptly and of showing immediately some absurdity in his proposition. And in answering, I began by observing that in certain cases or circumstances, his opinion would be right. But in the present case, there appeared or seemed to me some difference, etc. I soon found the advantage of this change in my manners. The conversations I engaged in went on more pleasantly. The modest way in which I proposed my opinions procured them a readier reception and less contradiction. I had less mortification when I was found to be in the wrong, and I more easily prevailed with others to give up their mistakes and join with me when I happened to be in the right. And this mode, which I at first put on with some violence to natural inclination, became at length so easy and so habitual to me that perhaps for these 50 years past, no one has ever heard a dogmatical expression escape me. And to this habit, I think it principally owing that I had early so much weight with my fellow citizens when I proposed new institutions or alterations in the old, and so much influence in public councils when I became a member. For I was but a bad speaker, never eloquent, subject to much hesitation in my choice of words, hardly correct in language, and yet I generally carried my points. In reality, there is perhaps no one of our natural passions so hard to subdue as pride. Disguise it, struggle with it, beat it down, stifle it, mortify it as much as one pleases, it is still alive, and will every now and then peep out and show itself. So one of my favorite lines is, I cannot boast of much success in acquiring the reality of this virtue, but I had a good deal with regard to the appearance of it. And I love that because that sentence itself is a beautiful demonstration of humility. Because humility is one thing, if you have it, you cannot talk about it. If you're humble, that's the one thing you cannot acknowledge. And I absolutely love how he ends that section. Pride, being the opposite of humility, is a thing that keeps rising naturally and you can never keep down. And he says, even if I could convince myself that I had completely got rid of pride, I would probably be proud of my humility.